Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So in the previous video we have learned how many main effects and interaction effects are there in 3 square factorial experiment and how the degrees of freedom is further divided, how the 2 degrees of freedom for factors a and b are divided, and the 4 degrees of freedom how the 2 factor interaction effect is divided, right? So in this video, we are going to learn how to estimate the sum of the squares of the main effect and the interaction effect. So main effect are both A and B. A and B. So sum of the squares of A will be, which is equals to sum of the squares of linear effect of A plus sum of the squares of quadratic effect of A. A is further divided. A factor has 2 degrees of freedom. This 2 degrees of freedom is further divided into linear effect and quadratic effect. So sum of the squares of A will be also the sum of will be equals to the addition of sum of the squares of linear effect of A and the quadratic effect of A. Now the sum of the squares of B, which is equals to sum of the squares of linear effect of the factor B and quadratic effect of factor B. Sum of the squares of interaction effect of AB, this is divided into 4, right? That is 1 with L into L, L into Q, Q into L and Q into Q. So which is equals to S into S, AB plus S into S, AB, L into Q. This can be written as like this also, plus sum of the squares of AB, which has the quadratic effect of A and linear effect of B, plus sum of the squares of AB, the quadratic effect of A and B, right? So we need to know what is the linear effect of A, linear effect of B, quadratic effect of A and quadratic effect of B in order to estimate the sum of the squares of A. So to determine the linear effect of linear and quadratic effect of factors, we use here the orthogonal contrast coefficients. I know you are very familiar with the orthogonal contrast and orthogonal contrast coefficients. We have already seen this definition in the 2 square factorial experiment. If you have not gone through it, I request you to go through it. I will give you the link in the description box. And మనకి orthogonal contrast అంటే ఏం తెలుసు, sum of the coefficients should be equals to 0. సో ఈ లీనియర్ ఎఫెక్ట్ క్వాడ్రాటిక్ ఎఫెక్ట్ కనుక్కోవడానికి మనము ఆర్థోగోనల్ కాంట్రాస్ట్ కోఎఫిషియన్స్ని యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం. అంటే ఏమన్నట్టు వాటిని యాడ్ చేస్తే సమ్ అనేది 0 రావాలి, విచ్ ఇస్ నథింగ్ బట్ సమ్మేషన్ CIDI షుడ్ బి ఈక్వల్స్ టు 0. ఆర్థోగోనల్ కాంట్రాస్ట్ అంటే, రైట్? సో ద లీనియర్ హ్యావ్ ది orthogonal contrast coefficient has -1, 0, 1. In quadratic we have 1, -2 and 1. మనం సమ్ చేస్తే ఏం అవ్వాలి, 0 అవ్వాలి. -1 plus 1 0, 0 minus 2 will be -2 and 1 plus 1 2, so +2. -2 + 2 cancel, So the sum will be always equals to 0. Hope it's clear. And now we need to calculate the AL and BL, AQ and BQ. And once see this, the factor A is having the three levels, A0, A1 and A2. These are A1, A0, A1 and A2. And B having B0, B1 and B2. Okay. This we are going to use to estimate the linear effect of A and B. So now the linear effect of A, which is equals to, మనకి లీనియర్ అంటే ఏమున్నాయి ఇక్కడ, 0 the coefficients, sorry, 1, -1, 0 and 1. This is what we have, right? Here if you see down, -1, 0 and 1. Sorry, -1, 0 and 1. So the A has three levels, that is A0, A1 and A2. So you need to multiply these coefficients with their levels. So -1 into A0 plus 0 into A1, 1 into A2 plus 1 into A2. And if you see, if you add this constants, -1, 0 and 1, -1 plus 1 cancel, 0 plus 0 is 0. So if you see, summation Ci is equals to 0. This is the linear combination of A, and summation Ci is equals to 0. So we can call it as A has a contrast. In linear, the linear effect of A is a contrast. So which can also call it as contrast AL. And now let us estimate the linear effect for BL. B also has the three levels, that is B0, B1 and B2. So multiply these levels with the constants. So -1 into B0 plus 0 into B1 plus 1 into B2. So this is also nothing but the contrast BL, because if you add the constant, that will be equals to 0. Summation Ci is equals to 0. Then we can call it as the factor B in linear effect is a contrast. And now let us calculate the quadratic effect of A. Quadratic has 1, -2 and 1, right? So A with three levels, A0, A1 and A2. So which is equals to 1 into A0 -2 into A1 plus 1 into A2. If you add the constants, -1 plus 1, -2 plus 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So we can call the factor A, the constants are 0. So we can call it as the AQ has a contrast. Contrast AQ. Similarly, the BQ will be 1 into B0 -2 into B1 plus 1 into B2. This is contrast BQ, sorry, contrast BQ. Sum of the squares of, here if you see the formula of sum of the squares of A is nothing but sum of the squares of AL, sum of the squares of AQ. So now the sum of the squares of AL, which is equals to contrast AL whole square by r into sum of the squares of contrast AL, sum of the squares of the contrast AL. సో ఇక్కడ కాంట్రాస్ట్ AL అంటే మనకి ఏమొచ్చింది, -1 into A0 plus 0 into A1 plus 1 into A2 whole square divided by r into here sum of the squares of coefficient of here this is the coefficient of contrast AL. ఈ కాంట్రాస్ట్ ఏఎల్ ఏదైతే ఉందో వాటి యొక్క కోఎఫిషియెంట్ స్క్వేర్ చేయాలి. ఇక్కడ సమ్ ఆఫ్ ది స్క్వేర్స్ అంటే స్క్వేర్ చేసి వాటిని యాడ్ చేయాలి, వాటి కోఎఫిషియెంట్స్ని. సో ఇక్కడ మనకు కాంట్రాస్ట్ ఏఎల్లో వాటి యొక్క కోఎఫిషియెంట్స్ ఏంటి, -1. దీని స్క్వేర్ ఎంత, -1 హోల్ స్క్వేర్ 1. సో 1 ప్లస్ 0 స్క్వేర్ 0 ప్లస్ 1 స్క్వేర్ 1 ప్లస్ 1 which is nothing but this is 2r with 1 degrees of freedom. In the same way, sum of the squares of BL, that is contrast BL whole square by r into sum of the squares of coefficient of contrast BL, that is -1 into B0 plus 0 into B1 plus 1 into B2 whole square by r into BL యొక్క కోఎఫిషియెంట్స్ ఏంటి, సేమ్ కదా, -1 0 1 and again we will get 2r with 1 degrees of freedom. And sum of the squares of AQ కి చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది, కాంట్రాస్ట్ AQ which is nothing but 1 into A0 minus 2 into A1 plus 1 into A2 whole square by r into 1 square 1 plus -2 square. స్క్వేర్ చేస్తున్నాం కాబట్టి మైనస్ అనేది ప్లస్ అయిపోతుంది. 2 square is 4 plus 1 square is 1 which is nothing but r into 4 5 6r with quadratic has 1 degree of freedom. మనకి సేమ్ BQ కూడా అలాగే వస్తుంది, which is sum of the squares of BQ which is equals to 1 into B0 minus 2 into B1 plus 1 into B2 whole square by r into 6 with 1 degrees of freedom. And మనకి ఏంటి, sum of the squares of A, that is equals to sum of the squares of AL plus sum of the squares of AQ. సో ALకి ఎన్ని డిగ్రీస్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఉన్నాయి, 1 degree and AQకి 1 degree which is equals to 2 degrees which is equal to with 2 degrees of freedom. In the same way, sum of the squares of B, that is sum of the squares of BL plus sum of the squares of BQ. ఇక్కడ BLకి ఏముంది, 1 degree of freedom and BQ with 1 degree of freedom. 1 plus 1 that is 2 with 2 degrees of freedom. I hope it's clear. And in the next video we are going to see how to estimate the sum of the squares for the two-factor interaction effect. And thank you.